And I just think in my personal life right now, I'm really having to push myself to kind of live what I believe. If I'm telling you, don't worry about the fear. Push through it, because that's where you're going to have your real awakening.
Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the podcast by and for EO Nashville. This is where we talk to fellow EO members about their experiences starting, growing, scaling, and sometimes selling businesses, and all the fun that happens in between. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. And with us today, fellow EO member, Angie Lawless. Angie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's see. I met you for the first time at a forum training.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I had the same conversation with somebody earlier. You have grown in many ways since we first met, right?
Well, thanks. I believe didn't you give me Brittany and Carrie? Was it you that told me about Brittany Lorenzi?
Yes.
And Carrie Cable, and you're like, this is the most, when you sit down with Brittany, it's the most meaningful.
Best meeting of the month.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, most of the time. But, clarity is a positive thing.
Right. Even if the numbers don't look as great.
Exactly.
Always. Yeah.
Yep.
And so we've been using her since, and just love Brittany, love the whole experience. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And it's great to be able to share these resources. I think that's one of the best things about EO Nashville. We were talking about the network before.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many resources at our fingertips. All we've got to do is ask.
Right. And we talk about how it's not a business referral group because we don't actively market to each other. But I was just telling someone who was looking to join the other day, but when we go to look for people to do business with, we have this trust in each other. And Brittany's a great example of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's been a board member, I think, for probably longer than anybody in EO Nashville. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Now, who was Angie before EO?
A very, I think a good COO, but I think I have since learned that detail is not my skill set. But, when you start your own company, you are everything. And even though I've always had at least one partner, I currently have two, I think before EO, I was chained to my desk, I have a real estate title company, so I was sending every wire. If I went to a lunch, I was nervous because someone was yelling that their money had to get out. And that looks very different from now when I am rarely at my desk. I haven't sent a wire in I don't know how long. And I am, in fact, kind of a terrible person at details, but we adapt to what we have to be. And so I was not, the stress level that I had, I think, was so much higher, but I didn't realize it because I didn't have the freedom to be in the visionary position, as I think a lot of us in EO would figure out.
Yeah. And how is it to be in EO when your other partners are not in EO?
It's fantastic. Are you kidding me?
Do you have to spend a lot of time kind of teaching them, okay, this is what I've learned? And
well, Robert knows really well because he was our EOS implementer and has spent a lot of time. I think that, I'm the one that always, I love my partners, first of all, which I think really sets me apart from most everybody in EO who I didn't realize how many people did not enjoy their partners. But I feel so lucky to have mine, and we're all very different. And so, I'm the one that says, it doesn't matter how high it is. Let's jump. It doesn't matter what it costs. My business partner's we'd probably go bankrupt if it were just Angie, And then my other business partner, one of them is Mr. No. It's I have a great idea. I'm so excited. And he's like, no, won't work.
You totally make it work.
Yeah.
Because, you are a true visionary. You have tons of ideas. You're bringing big relationships to the table. And you have two partners that are freaking whiz kids.
Yeah.
And so you're able to do great things because you actually have a team behind you that you trust. So, I mean, props to you. I didn't even really understand what a visionary was until EO.
Same.
And I was like, I didn't really understand what does that even mean?
A wizard of some kind?
Yeah.
Right. It feels very much like a luxury, right? When you first start, it's a luxury to have that. And so I feel very fortunate now, as you guys, to sort of be able to map out my life and think about where I want to go. Now I have the privilege of thinking about where I want to be, where the company wants to be, where we want the company to be in 5 years, 10 years. Whereas it was not a luxury we had before.
And you mentioned the thinking part.
Yes.
If you don't give yourself the space to actually think, you can maybe miss some of the cues of what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the luxury of being in EO. How do you utilize your forum to be better?
I think my forum, so I'll just give an example of Bill McCluskey. We've been in a forum together for a number of years, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And Bill has always been somebody who, for me, has never gotten upset with me if I sounded, ignorant, or has never been like, you are stupid, has always been willing to educate me. And I think the same, back and forth. And so it's sort of almost like, for me, forum is everything in my life actually is like business mixed with personal. I'm just like, I try to live very authentically. And so I think for me, that means that it's just kind of one thing. So if lots of times I may say something that doesn't exactly sound right. And so just having somebody who's willing to have these like personal / business conversations and help me kind of think through without judging me, I think that's huge. And we talked about it all the time, but I think one thing that's underestimated is that we rarely stop to celebrate our wins, to praise ourselves, to pat ourselves on the back, because we're already on to the next thing. And so it's kind of nice to have your forum say, wait, like, did you see what you just did? And you guys know, you look back for 6 months and you see it in other people and you're like, whoa, do you see what you've done? But we can't always see it in ourselves. So I think that's another thing that my forum gives me.
I have to think back about EO Talks, and his topic was about winning,
Yeah.
and about what winning really is. And I think EO teaches us that we're not going to win every single time. It's, you don't want to, I think it's the gap in the gain.
Mm-hmm.
If we think about, all right, I should be here, but I'm not. What are the little wins that you've had along the way that you can, keep yourself going? And that really, I told him, I texted him the next day. I said, I thought about you in the shower. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but
He was probably honored.
I'm sure. But it was, that I think is one of the things that forum mates really remind us of, that, how far we've come and give us encouragement. So
yeah, not comparing ourselves with someone else, but comparing last year's version of Angie, and looking back at that girl and be like, damn, that's cool. And a formate can catch it and then say it to you and just remind you that, hey, you're progressing. You're doing the thing. It's working.
And you know what else I think that's really interesting? I think I was telling somebody again about EO the other day. And so I'm thinking about what I said to them. But part of it, I think, is I may listen to you guys share about something you're doing, and that may have seemed impossible to me. But then I'm looking at you going, I know you. You're not, you're not a god, and you have put thought and hard work into this, and maybe I can do that too. And so whether it's scaling or having a difficult conversation, then I think those things are really inspirational. And sometimes you just need a once a month, like kick in the butt to, oh yeah, like you've been meaning to have that conversation for a long time. Do it today.
What's the biggest decision that you've had to navigate while you've been in EO?
So I don't know. I was sharing with you a little bit, Robert, before this, but I'm not a huge planner, and I also like to kind of. So, for example, when I was listening to Ryan Holiday the other day, I realized that I'm not a follower of Stoicism. nor do I want to be, although I admire it. I like to have the unknowns and I like to say yes. And I don't want to be guided by one principle. And a huge part of my currency I may not be like the very, very best in the world at one thing. I think that I'm the best in my market at what I do. And one of the top in the country, but I may not be the most elite because I'm willing to trade some of that for the currency of passion to be able to pursue even like what you guys are doing right here, right? Like the podcasting. And so I think for me though, something that I had to just sort of work through was coming out of, kind of being a mom. My youngest is now 6. And I think when my kids were sort of, as they started to be out of diapers, put on their own clothes, it made me realize that I had put a lot of myself to the side. I had really had to give, and I still do, but I'd had to give so much of myself into just the everyday basics to help these children survive. And then I woke up and I felt pretty empty. I'd had this company since the title company I had since 2006. Thanks to EO, I really put so much stock in this, is it would run. If my business partners and I walked out today, it would still run. I mean, we are there to prop it up, but we could walk out the door and it would be fun. So I felt like I needed more purpose, more meaning, more excitement in my life. And I think that is something that I'm still, it's not exactly a decision, but it's something that I still am fighting every day to sort of tell myself, like, life is on the other side of fear. Just step out. And so for me right now, it's been about pouring into the community, whether it's through nonprofits, whether it's through, boards with the city. I knew that I loved Nashville and I love people and I love connecting. And so my thought was, how can I take those things and maybe drive business back, even though it's not, let me go meet with this developer, this real estate agent and get the exact deal. Maybe it is, through these other sources, through just getting to know people, through feeling their energy and getting their inspiration that sort of revives me and helps me, kind of recreate this business, create new businesses, whatever it might be.
And I see that what you're doing with your podcast, the charts. And what's it like doing a podcast like that? Because you're interviewing, people in the community that are building. You're talking to people that are in politics, which is a touchy subject, of course. But what do you feel like you're getting fed by doing the podcast for you?
Totally a selfish project, right? I think any gain that we have gotten from it, any traction that we've gotten in the community by having people say they listen to it, it feels good, but it was totally selfish in this realization that we had gone as a company and as, my partners really deep into real estate. We knew real estate people. But then realizing that even though real estate is the entire community, you're primarily focused on, the real estate agents, the developers, the lenders. And so there's this whole world out there of kind of, people and perspectives that you're not getting. And so I think it became this curiosity about, I love Nashville. I love the spirit of Nashville. I love the people of Nashville. I think it is such a unique place. How can I dig in, contribute, learn more, and also be able to access these networks? And the podcast just became a way for us to do that. So it is a guilty pleasure. It's a curiosity thing. And it is a, damn, you people are smart, kind of thing. I love it.
So while you're talking about this, I love going to the downtown library. And they have these city directories. If you ever get a chance, a city directory in the downtown Nashville library. City directory is a list of addresses that you can pull up any street address and it'll tell you what business is there. And as you scroll through it, it's like an old Yellow Pages.
Oh, nice.
And you can literally see a street and all these businesses that were on a street. And there's like some really unusual facts of West End when they had a lot of interesting places in the 80s. West End. Like, anyway, I won't get all into it. But I tell all entrepreneurs, if you can, go there, go through the city directory and ask yourself, are you creating history in our city?
Yeah.
Because we should be creating history. And when you bring people together and you get them to talk about their vision, or they're going to work in this project, and some of these amazing people that stand and look at our city 20 years ago and said, I'm going to put a big ass building right here and right here, right here. And they're freaking doing it. And then that cannot not inspire you to look at your city and go, all right, what mark am I going to do? Who can I influence? How can I get my name on the building or be a part of it, and make this an awesome city and have my name in the books?
Mm-hmm. And Nashville is that. Yeah, Nashville is that way. I think if you are not connected, it is really on you, because we are a city that takes the first meeting. We are a city that even the highest, even a John Ingram or, a Freddie O'Connell, Mayor O'Connell, these doors will be open for you if you ask. And if you want to get involved in the city, there are plenty of boards out there that need community members to go and volunteer on and be part of it. So I love Nashville because it is that way.
And it's not too big. Yeah. This is one of those towns that you literally can be a fish and not be a tiny fish. You can decide how big a fish you want to be.
That's right. And I think there's so much about, getting involved even in your neighborhood association or just local things around you that we miss because we're driving, we're on the phone, we're just rushing home, and you kind of miss, like, even those buildings. You go downtown and you're like, wait, where'd that Whole Foods come from? I remember like a couple of years ago having that meal, like, where'd that come from? Because I was tuned out. I wasn't looking for it. And, but I think we get so much value by slowing down, thinking about it, and looking for it.
What do you think for you has been your biggest aha moment of being, maybe your experience in EO, maybe just in business? What was something that was transformative for Angie?
Well, I think for me at just a very young age, because I'd been at, I'd gone to law school and then at Vanderbilt, which is what brought me to Nashville. And then I was working at Bass, Berry & Sims. And I remember that I would wear long skirts and tank tops, and I wouldn't conform. And people would say that I was, Joan Baez, sort of like joking. And I worked with the best people. And I remember one night, this mentor of mine named Derek Huey came in and he said, we need you to stay late. And I had dinner plans with a girlfriend that I'd planned for weeks. And I knew, because I knew him, that he would not ask me to do something unless it was something that needed to be done. And I had so much respect for him. And I just thought, I'm not going to live this way. Not going to be living with someone else dictating what I'm going to do. And I think one thing that has been sort of my biggest gift is that money's just never been a factor for me. In that moment, I was making, as a 26-year-old kid, way more money than my parents made just working at a law firm. And I thought, if I can make $50,000 a year, I don't care. And we would go to the library. My business partner and I were both at Bass, and now my third one as well. Like, we were all three at Bass, but Brandon, my first business partner, we would go to the library and we would look at those books and we'd be like, I don't know, what are we going to do? How about a furniture store? How about this? How about that? And I think that was kind of my, looking back on it, that was a really defining moment that I didn't even know I was making. Because what if I had waited? Would I have done the same thing? At the time, it felt like nothing.
I've felt crazy many times looking back. It's like, what possessed me to do this
right.
when I've got all these responsibilities? But I did it, and now it just seems normal.
Yeah.
And I've recently had a reawakening that, hey, I need to take some more risks.
Yeah.
Are there things right now that you're doing that feel that way?
Yeah, I think on the business side, it's we've opened let's see, we opened a Green Hills office. We've opened an office in Cool Springs. And now we're about to open an office in Clarksville. And I think those things have been moving pretty rapidly. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's do it. It will be fine. If it is not fine, we will back up. We will go again. So I think those are things that are a little bit outside my comfort zone that I'm getting toward. And I just think in my personal life right now, I'm really having to push myself to kind of live what I believe. If I'm telling you, don't worry about the fear. Push through it, because that's where you're going to have your real awakening. When it's you, it's like, one more day. So I think I'm facing some personal challenges and decisions that I have to get up every day and tell myself, okay, we're going to keep walking this road and we're going to get through it.
How do you make decisions?
Most of the time, unless, again, I think in my personal life, sometimes it's been a little bit more challenging, but I typically, like in business, with my partners, I will say, this is the way that it's going to be done. Like, we're going to do it this way. And I'll wait and see if they push back too much. And if they don't, then I just keep going.
That's an interesting new way to do it. I like that.
And then,
so more like a dictatorship.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Like that.
With the opportunity for them to push back.
Yeah, with the opportunity.
And testing the waters.
And also, we don't have time. You know what I mean? I'm barely getting them in the same room, at our EOS meeting. So if they don't push back, I consider that like the thumbs up, because they know I'm going to go. I think if they push back, then it's almost, unless it's something I'm really passionate about and I really, really believe in, then lots of times I will say, like, you guys let me know. Like if it's something, particularly when it comes, they think that they're so good at the money part of it. Well, the truth is that if someone else really steps up and has a passion in it, then as a partner, you can take a back seat if you trust them. Doesn't mean that I couldn't also be good at that. So lots of times when it's like a bigger financial decision, I'm like, y'all just talk about it and let me know. But I think it's because of the trust that we've built. And that's really nice.
Well, I mean, I think there's different ways to do that. I mean, you could say, what do you think about? And that always just brings up a lot of like, people just fill in air. So they don't really they just make up some things to think about. They don't really care. But I think there's some power in a leader going, you see that hill? That's the hill we're conquering. We're going there.
Got your boots on?
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's go. And so, which is like, and I think that's what because you have two partners that are male, and, I think a unique role that I've seen with feminine energy in a leadership team is like, my wife is a great intuition artist. I'll meet someone new and I'll bring them into our little world, and I'll be like, all right, so what'd you think? Because she is way better at the intuition and the vibe of somebody.
And Rachel has a really good energy too.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the values as a visionary. Like you have this intuition where you just you have this feeling, and you can't really articulate it probably.
No, that's exactly right. It is that gut kind of thing for me. And I can walk into a room, and this is the downside. I can walk into a room and just immediately disengage and be like, okay, like I'm going to go get a snack or what, if I don't get a good feeling about somebody. But actually I had to pull myself out of the interviewing process, because I realized that because of that, most of the time I did get this really good feeling about people, and they may be great people that I would love to have coffee with, but that doesn't mean that they're great for X or Y, Z job. And so
that's why you have an integrator that does those things.
I know. They're just like
your job, girl.
On hiring and fire. And then on firing, I would rehire people, they would give me like, oh, but I've been on drugs because, my boyfriend had the drugs in the house all the time. And and I'd be like, I feel so bad for you, And then they're like, get out of this room, So I don't do hiring. I don't do firing anymore.
What would be some tips if you had a new green EO member, fresh meat,
Yeah.
and you're guiding them along the process of what it's like to be an EO? What would your advice be for them?
I think it would be to get involved on a committee. Maybe you don't want to do something at a board level just yet. But for me, like being involved in the membership committee was really great because they were very seasoned members who were running that. And it was a good group where I felt like we got to sort of bond and get to know each other. And I am an extrovert who can walk into a room, but I'm also the person that like I have imposter syndrome. I think I'll go hide in the bathroom for a minute, like take a breath and then come back out. So I think that is a really good place to start, to just feel like when you walk in a room, you've got 3 or 4 people you can say hi to and they genuinely are excited to see you. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to take the meeting, go at your own pace. But yeah, I think getting involved, and don't think that you have to take every single trip. I felt like an outcast for a long time. Like, wait, I didn't go to Nerve, or I didn't go to this, or I didn't go to that. It wasn't the right time. I had young children. I've just accepted to the Entrepreneurial Master's Program. But it's my first trip. It will be my first trip of any kind that I've done with EO, and I've been in 7 or 8 years. It hasn't been the right time, and now it is. So
I guarantee you, it's going to be the best thing you've ever done.
Did you do it?
I did it.
Oh,
It's impacted my life in so many different ways.
Can you talk more about that?
yeah, I would love to hear.
And what is it exactly?
The Entrepreneurial Master's Program, it's a 3-year program. It's about 4 days in length. It's at MIT. They have an off-campus facility called the Endicott House. And so you've got 68 entrepreneurs from around the world that go there. You've got world-class speakers that come in, like Nero, who came and spoke a couple of weeks ago.
Good.
He was there last year. And so you get to know your fellow members. It's like your forum on steroids. I hate that phrase, but and for me, so in 2019, I guess early 2020, Ginger Jones and I were both talking about going, and we decided to apply. Of course, we didn't get to go until 2022, but I am a completely different person on the other side of that experience because you get to be around these other high-powered entrepreneurs. You can kind of get the imposter syndrome because, outwardly they know things you don't. They've experienced things you haven't, but you get to hear more about what they've done. Then you couple that with these world-class speakers that come in, and just really, that's where I decided to start working out every day. Actually, one of my dear friends and forum mates at EMP, I was complaining about being fat, and he's like, "Oh, I can fix your wagon. You're going to work out every day, and you're going to report it to me, or I'm coming to Nashville."
Wow, it's amazing.
And I said, "Okay, well, I know that's the answer, so let's do it." So everybody that goes, I think, takes something different away from it, and then you are beyond the Nashville network. I've got friends in the Philippines, Germany, all over the place. It's the best thing that EO does.
Well, that's actually something what you just said about, the weight and losing weight. I think that is one thing that EO is good about bringing out of business leaders that not every organization does. And that is the vulnerability and, reaching the 5% and getting to the personal. And so you went for a business conference. You came away with tons of business knowledge, but I think almost it is like opening your mind up and being with other leaders that you sit down and you're like, you can say, right? Like, I'm so impressed with you. I feel about this small right now. And they take the mask off and they don't just try to like beef you up, and you're not trying to up each other. You're trying to understand and make each other better. And I do not think every business organization, I know, is not like that. And so I think that part is so unique.
Yeah, there's a lot of, we all have egos in EO. we've done certain things that are kind of crazy, but when we're all together, that it kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And people share things they wouldn't otherwise share. And God help anybody in EO that asks me, what's going on with you? Because it's going to get dark or light or wherever I happen to be in that moment. And then we get to have a conversation about it.
Right. But I'm not going to play you and be like, oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And how powerful is that when you're trying to authentically connect with an employee?
It's,
Or
I mean,
a new potential client or, new vendor. I mean, when you're able to relate to that kind of person, like when we're able to interrelate like that, and you're like, wow, there's a whole connection model with other humans that I was not aware of.
Yeah.
Because like the practice of vulnerability is like a muscle that you get better and better and better at it. And then you also get better at, all right, it becomes natural. Like, I'm just going to put my shit on the table because guess what? That other person's going to open up.
mm-hmm.
And because I was like, got raw and they saw some shit that I did that I'm not happy about or proud about. And I'm just like, yeah, this is the flawed Robert you get to see. And then they open up with this other thing. And you're like, whoa, that story.
Mm-hmm.
That's my story. Oh shit. I'm doing that because of and you're like, that's when we really connect the dots. And that's why they say like, be selfish in forum, and that doesn't mean you're just taking up all the airwaves. But it's like, talk about your shit.
Yeah.
And, get in the 5%, do go deep as you can freaking go, because that's when you're going to get the unlock. Because whenever someone's like, well, I got to tell you what's going on. I mean, I'm going to be real. What's really going on. And you start going in your story and people are like, they put the phone down. They're not distracted. They're
Right.
like on you. Cause you get emotion. Like when we go like levels deep, your voice starts to crackle. You start to like, your emotion comes out where you're literally speaking from your heart. And you're not speaking from, how's business? It's great. How's that great?
And we know
everything is great.
We know not to give advice too.
Yeah.
It's I was with Greg Lucan this week and telling him some things that I'm going through, and he didn't take the opportunity to try to tell me what to do. He just started telling stories. I'm like, wow, that is exactly what I needed to hear.
He's a good storyteller. He
really is.
He gave me. He caught me like he caught me out of that ice skating thing, and I was going through some shit. And I shared that story and I cried like a fucking little wimpy boy. But he had a fucking perfect story for me that was like the story I needed to hear from a different perspective.
Yeah.
That really helped me tremendously. And I'm glad I opened up to that, and we have a crew just like that. So anyway.
Well, and to that point, I remember a moment, well, two things. One, how valuable is that member that comes into your forum and they do access their vulnerability really easily? They do cry. They do give of themselves because they elevate everybody else. And so I think that's a really cool part, is that it's been very hard for me to access my vulnerability. So I would say that has actually been one of the greatest things of EO, is that I have to work toward it. And I've had to really dig deep. But the other thing is that I remember this moment probably a year or two in, where people were, your forum changes over time, right? And it felt threatened to me. It felt like maybe it was smaller and a couple of people were leaving. And so it felt like that space was threatened. And I remember these emotions coming out of nowhere and crying, and I couldn't stop. And I realized that had, without me knowing, become this safe place where I could talk to people who were close to me, but who also weren't so close to me that they were coming over for dinner every Friday night and seeing my spouse, my family, in all my business, that I could be 1000% real with. But I didn't realize it until it was about to go away. We don't have that safe place around us very often.
Yeah, I told people regularly that everybody ought to have a group like what we have with Forum. And if you have that, then you can have the deep conversations and get other people's perspective. That vulnerability is the key to it.
It is so key.
Thank you, Angie And so if you are an entrepreneur in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're looking for a community to belong to where you can be yourself, help navigate life through some of the challenges that are going to happen in your business or in your life, you can visit eonashville.com and learn how 350 of us get to do this every single month. Love to see you. Thanks for watching and hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.